What's up, everybody? This is episode 18? Is that right?
Yep.
Yep, episode 18 of the Essential Credentials. I know Matt's been doing some of the other episodes. I don't want to say they're side credentials because we kind of decided that it's just all part of Essential Credentials in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt's been doing his thing, and I've been coming on for the other episodes. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about just the values and the crazy price increases that we've seen over 10 years to 2 years to 2 months. I think it's something that would be interesting to discuss with you guys because these prices have just went out the window over the last, I'd say, 3 years as a good sample size. So that's what we're going to talk about today is just the crazy price increases and our examples of it. We all three of us have pretty good examples of what happened and the prices that we bought things at versus what they're at now. And so that's what we're going to talk about. We got Jeremy on. I know he was with Matt last week talking about some cool A-rods. Jeremy, if you just want to give a little bit of info about yourself.
Sure. I guess I just started collecting when I was about 9 years old. Had a friend's dad that had a bunch of old basketball cards. He just gave me, and that kind of started things from there. I never really collected basketball cards after that. Just started with baseball and always gravitated towards the Mariners and A-Rod and Griffey. Collected pretty good up until about 2010, 2011. Then I had other interests. Had to pay some bills, sold some things off. And then I started coming back earlier this year when Kyle wanted to buy a few things from me, and I sold a bunch and then decided I wanted to get back into it. And went to the National, and that's that.
Yeah, he was at the National, Greg.
Okay.
We didn't even see him.
I'm sure we had to have passed.
Yeah, at some point.
Matt was staring down the A-Rod, so I'm sure.
Yeah, no, that's all I was looking for too. So
we were probably standing next to him, trying to figure out what you wanted to get or how much you wanted to offer. And Matt I was probably talking to Matt.
Yep, at some point, I'm sure we had to have passed.
Yeah, I'm sure. So were you involved in any of the forums or any of?
Yeah, I was always involved in Freedom Cardboard, and then there was another trading site. I don't even remember what it's called now. Or even if it still exists, just kind of for trading purposes. But I've been on eBay just buying things up since 2008, something like that. So.
Okay. And did you meet Kyle on the forums?
No, Kyle, I had a photo bucket list, and I think he found that somehow from Freedom Cardboard. It was always linked in my signature. So he found that and then found my Instagram and then started messaging me and asking if I still had all of those, and I said most of them. He started buying a few things up.
That's the sign of a true hardcore collector.
Oh, for sure.
You go back 10 years and find a signature and go to the photo album and then start contacting. I'm in the process of trying to get a hold of a guy with the Tim Salmon card, and he posted in Trading Card Database 9 months ago. He posted it, and he's been non-existent. So I was able to track that. I emailed him. I found an email for him. I emailed him. I tried to add him on Facebook. I tried to message him on Facebook. And he's a 60-year-old man, so I don't think he gets Facebook like some of us younger guys. So that's awesome. He even allows public comment. So I've commented on 2 of his posts. Just to be hey, I sent you a message. I don't know who you are, but I sent you a message. He hasn't responded. But that's a sign of a collector who wants all the cards that they can find.
I did that with Brant, actually. I was looking for the holographics a long time ago, and I messaged. I didn't know who he was at the time. I messaged Brant and said, "Hey, you have any interest in moving this card?" And he's like, "Nope, never going to happen." So at least I knew that worked, and so I could track guys down that way. And I think it was through Photo Bucket again, kind of did with Jeremy. But we do go great lengths to find the cards that we look for. I mean, sometimes you have to. That's the fun of it. So
I remember before, right when the forums were the hottest thing, like 2006 or so. It was Sports Card Forum, SCF, I think.
Yep.
Wow.
Right.
Yep.
Photo Bucket. Everybody had a Photo Bucket album.
Yep.
It was all like signatures, like linked in the signature. So you'd look at people's photo buckets and find stuff to trade. Because you couldn't really upload pictures to the forum. You had to like have a private upload site, and that's why I think everybody used Photo Bucket or whatever website. And I remember going through a lot of Photo Bucket albums just to find some stuff. But with Facebook, uploading pictures, it's so easy. Everything's at our fingertips nowadays. So these new collectors don't know what we had to go through in the early internet days of trying to find stuff.
Now, Jeremy, you were able to see A-Rod play live a few times too. That kind of kept your love for collecting him when you were younger going, right?
Yeah, I saw him a couple times. I don't think I ever saw him when he played with the Mariners, but definitely a couple times when he was with Texas, and then quite a few times when he was with the Yankees. So always been my favorite player and still is. And can't say it's hard to watch baseball, but I have a little bit less baseball watching since he's been out. So I try to find someone else to at least make me watch.
Yeah, I don't know. I've noticed the same thing. Like, I'm a huge White Sox fan, and so I always have a season subscription to the White Sox. But I don't know if collecting I don't know if it was just being a kid and being mesmerized by them. I don't know if that made me more interested in baseball. Because you'd have the card in hand, and then your player would be like on Sports Center, or you'd be watching the game. So it like multiplied the value or the importance of the game or the player. And so like nowadays I'll watch the White Sox, and I'm still a huge White Sox fan, but I don't get that like just inner burn that Frank Thomas or Robin Ventura, Eloy is cool to watch, and Moncada, but I'm like, oh, Moncada hit a home run, cool. Like, I'm not like, yes, Frank Thomas. I'm not like that anymore. And I don't know if it's just being a kid, being bogged down by the adult life where you're just working and coming home and working. I don't know what it is, but it just seems different now than versus being a kid.
I think you just have more time to when as a kid, you have more time to focus on that. When we all went to school, Jeremy and I were thinking about, okay, who the Mariners playing today? How are Cora and A-Rod and Griffey going to do? And you'd get the newspaper the next day and you'd read through and see, or watch Sports Center if you were lucky enough back then to have cable. But when they were on TV, A, and then B, they did something awesome. Again, you had all their cards right there. So it was like, oh, man, this is awesome. I can't wait to go see him play next year and stuff like that. I think that definitely adds to it. And, yeah, I'm the same. I like Mitch Haniger a lot, but the Mariners suck right now. And so even when he does well, I'm like, okay, cool. But I don't have any cards of him. I'm not vested in him like I used to be with the Mariners of the late 90s and early 2000s. Even with Ichiro, I had somebody to really root for. But now it's, not like that. I mean, what do you think, Jeremy? Is it the same for you?
It's the same for me. I kind of, once A-Rod was kind of winding down, I'd kind of grabbed on to Troy Tulowitzki because I lived in Colorado for a while.
Nice.
Always enjoyed watching him play. And then he kind of got moved around and kept getting hurt. So I always still enjoyed watching the Yankees from A-Rod's days too. And I think one of the things that's I like watching the Yankees. I like watching their players, but then trying to collect or get into buying some of their cards, some of the new rookie autos and stuff, they're just not – they're too expensive for what I want to pay for, an Aaron Judge or, Gleyber Torres, that kind of stuff. And I'd rather spend my money on older stuff for A-Rod, even Nomar or something.
Yeah. Have you seen any like new stuff that just has wowed you? Because I feel like they're just phoning it in for the most part, like the same designs every year.
Yeah, that's kind of what I noticed. That's kind of what got me out of it in the first place, was just no original content. It was just, here's a Bowman Chrome card, and then here's 15 parallels. And I kind of got on that bandwagon of trying to get, the rainbow. and it was kind of cool. But then, yeah, it's the same card, just a different color, and it didn't really hold my interest much after a couple of years. Yeah. And I'm seeing that kind of like the Topps, what is it, Dynasty patches and stuff. Some cool looking cards, but then there's 10 different versions, and they're all basically the same, just a little bit different patch, a little bit different picture. But you could come up with several different designs and actually make different cards. But
yeah,
they kind of just try to do what's simple, and I mean, it works. They're good looking cards. People are definitely buying them and paying good money for them. So,
but that's the thing. Like the first time you see it, you're like, man, that's incredible. But then 2018 is kind of the same, and 2017 is kind of the same. So it's like I would like to have one of them.
Yeah.
And I don't need any more because they're all basically the same.
Well, I've noticed that when the 2019 Dynasty patches came out, I thought it was just an old 17 or 18 patch that I hadn't seen yet.
Yeah.
Well, I hadn't seen that 2019 was out yet.
Same.
It's same concept, same layout, same design, just a little bit updated picture and patch.
And Panini's like doing die cut stuff, but they don't have the logos, and that kind of like, it just feels off brand. It's like you're going to Big Lots and buying like toothpaste. So it's like it's hard to get on board with that. I would totally love for some of the companies to come back and just create some kind of competition so that people have to have that imagination sparking to get sales going, because right now you phone it in, just reprint it, next year look kind of similar, and people buy it up. So
I mean, at the National, we were going through all those, this, Jeremy and Greg, you're with me, we would go through and you'd see a whole display case of Topps Dynasty patches and autos, and you're like, those are cool, but again, it's all the same, and I think they didn't really catch your eye that first time.
Right.
But again, all you really need is one, because they haven't changed the design over the few years. And so, that's a big reason why I've stayed away. If I'm not going to spend $80 on that card, I'm going to save $80 and buy a 90s card that finally pops up.
Right.
It's hard to justify it.
And that kind of ties into what we're going to talk about is you could spend $80 and get an A-Rod Dynasty patch, or you can spend $80 and get like a refractor that's going to end up being like $200 in 2 years. So that Dynasty patch is not going up. It's going to be the same price, if not less, in 2 years. So you got to, if you're approaching it from an investment standpoint, you're going to be doing better buying that 90s refractor versus the 2019 Dynasty patch that you could probably get for half the price in 2 years.
Right.
So that's going to lead us into our actual discussion. I know we kind of went off, but my first card that I was going to talk about is the staple of the 90s, and that's the 93 Finest Refractor. We all know them. We all want them. And I was looking at the
Sorry, we don't want those. Sorry, we're not in that set.
Well, I beg to differ. You got the reprint refractor, so
that has been enticing.
You guys are wishing, at least.
Are you talking about the one that you helped me? You were there when I bought that reprint looking one that I overpaid like a son of a gun for. It's all good.
93 Finest.
Yeah. All right. I'll buy it. I'll buy that. Okay.
So the Frank. In 2008, a PSA 10 went for $450, and you could say that's a good, a high price, sure. I got a PSA 9 for $400 2 years ago, and then I looked at November of last year, and one went for $1,000. So over 10 years, you just got $600 profit. That's the 93 Finest are always going to be like the quintessential 90s refractor set, because it started it all. You could say that's where things really went up, and that's the most increase I've seen out of the research that I've been doing. So I just wanted to start with that one because everything else I feel is going to be a little less than the 93 finest. The Griffeys are even crazier than the Franks.
Yeah.
But that's the example I wanted to bring up. Matt, do you have any examples about your prices?
Well, I mean, I think we should go to Jeremy because I keep thinking of another quintessential 90s insert. And Jeremy, read my mind, man. Where am I going with this? Think $45. I think you got to know where I'm going with this one. I think it's a great example.
The Precious Metals Gems. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, from 98. Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I bought that. I mean, 98 Precious Metals Gems from Metal Universe. One came up as a buy it now for $42, $45, something back in 2010.
That hurts.
And the checklist version sold, I think, earlier this year for close to $300.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the offers I got on the one I had listed on eBay for a while were almost double that. And so I mean, from $45 to what, $550 plus?
Yeah. And I looked at the Frank. In 2008, the Frank was averaging about 30.
Wow.
And in October of this year, it sold for 800. Isn't that insane?
Well, I have a couple auctions I had saved around that same time that were kind of all about the same for A-Rod. 40, 50, 60 bucks for the precious metals. And then I think a couple from 2016 were starting to creep up about 150, 200, 250.
Right.
And now, yeah, they almost double that, maybe a little bit more.
And I still feel like basketball played a somewhat of a big factor in this because those Jordans kind of made them in the spotlight. That's the precious metal. People were like, okay, if I can't get the Jordan, like, let's get the Griffey. And if I can't get the Griffey, let's get the A-Rod. So I think the basketball really played a big part in precious metal just going through the roof. I have the salmon. I have two salmon. One I bought for 60 and one I bought for 100. And that was last year. Wow. And that's Tim Salmon precious metal.
Yeah. Wow. Mm-hmm.
So I can't imagine, Griffey, Frank in the thousands soon. That they're going to be even your average player. You're looking at 20 to 60 bucks. And then your semi-stars, 100, 200. That's what that's where it's at now, realistically.
Well, I remember seeing a couple of the Jeters, the 98 Jeters at the National.
Yep.
I saw two different versions, maybe like a BGS 9 and a BGS 8.5. And I think both of them were at least $1,000.
Yeah, right. Well, that's because Nick had him in his case.
Well, yeah. Well, I think one was Nick, and I think there was one in a different display somewhere else.
Probably on the other side of Nick, I think.
Carlo, I think, had one as well over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I could have predicted that happening. I mean, obviously, a couple of years ago, a member in the group, Joe, he said to pony up and pay my $100 for the first time for a card. Back then I had a very strict rule. Don't break 70, 75, just try to stay in there. I'm kicking myself for it now because 2 years ago, that PMG was $100, buy it now on eBay. And then one popped up last year right before the National, Greg, you remember that? And I offered, something, almost $3. And you were like, that's a real solid offer. And he didn't take it, sold it to somebody else. So, definitely that card is increased in value dramatically. I think that the one example I have, it's not nearly as major, but I think most 90s guys know it. It's from 99 Stars and Steel. And Greg, you just sent out a picture of it, the domed gold.
Yeah.
This card, last time it sold was like, I think $56. I didn't buy this on eBay. I bought it from Brant, but it was around $56. And one just ended a couple months back or less for 100. What was it, Jeremy? $130 almost.
Yeah, 137, something like that.
I mean, that's doubled in value in 3 years. I mean, it just, there's a lot of factors that go into that. I think Jeremy and I are pretty familiar as to why his prices have gone absolutely through the roof. But in general, I think the recognition that we're doing on this show and our group play a huge part into why a card like that doubles in value in the PMGs. the Crusades, the finest refractors. I think we're bringing these cards to light over and over and over again, and people are commenting on how cool they are. And now it's really made the prices go crazy last couple of years. I mean, people have talked about it. It's starting to happen.
Well, we're basically a walking advertisement for most of these cards.
Yeah.
You bring attention to something that's cool, and other people are going to like naturally follow and want that as well. So I think, just bringing to light anything that's cool is going to make people want it. So I feel like we're just walking advertise. Like I'm always hesitant. If I don't have a card, I don't really want to talk about it yet. I'm just going to make it more expensive, I feel like.
I've kind of thought about that too. I've seen a couple of recent posts from Matt and from others that of a card talking about kind of the backstory or how rare it is, or maybe a theoretical print run of what people have kind of calculated it out to be.
Yeah.
And I'll go straight to eBay, and if there's a copy, I'll snatch it up before anyone else can try to offer on it or something.
Yeah, you're
post like, that looks pretty cool. Maybe I'll try to pick that up. I'm like, oh crap, I got to go get the one on eBay if it's still there.
The minute somebody mentions a card, that time just like closes, and you're like, so you have to be like, Matt's talking about something. I got to go buy my guy.
Yep. No, I think he recently bought one of the versions I was looking at, and I didn't think much of it. And once he posted it and people started commenting on it about, how good it looked, and they were trying to pick one up too. And I'm like, I guess I better go buy the other one that's on eBay still.
Was it one of those Pacific cards?
It was the 97 new Pinnacle Green Artist Proof.
Oh yeah, I got both of those here.
Yep, I bought that last night at about 11:30.
You know what? It's funny. I wake up this morning and my eBay, I had it in my watched items. I forgot to remove it, and it says, "Sorry, this item's gone." And I'm like, it's either Jeremy, Bo, or Brant, and it's amazing how a card gets posted and all of a sudden it's gone. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I can show this off at the end or whatever, but. Right now we're kind of going through I'm in a different mindset now than I've ever been in collecting A-Rod, and we relate this to market. You have one nemesis, Greg, and so mainly. So when a card pops up, you can kind of be like, maybe I'll offer a high amount, maybe I'll leave it alone. Like the Leaf card I sent you this last week, you're like, that's too much. I can just leave it alone. Well. Now we've got new people collecting A-Rod that haven't done that before, so his prices are now just going bananas. And so when a card pops up, now we're like, okay, do we scoop it up right away? Do we overpay? Do we, wait it out? And right now you can't wait it out. This is really strange. This is almost like we're approaching Cal Ripken, Frank Thomas, Barry Bonds territory where the cards are not there for very long. The Jeters and Griffies are there because people have them so overpriced on eBay and nobody buys them. But so we haven't got there yet. But we're definitely, Jeremy, are you noticing this too? It's like his cards are just disappearing off eBay now, man.
Yep. They're going really quick. I know there was a bunch of kind of not obscure but lowish numbered parallels for Pacific and kind of in the 99s, 2000s that were on Burbank for a while. And it was actually a pretty decent price for most of them, but I just never thought to pick them up because they seemed like they'd been there for a while. They probably would still be there for a while. And then I think Bo posted like 6 or 7 of them the other day.
Well, that's, I think, a big topic that we can discuss is, fellow collectors in the competition and just how a couple guys can increase the value of a card. But I mean, I don't know. It's kind of interesting, Greg, because you said Tim Salmon's prices have increased, yet there's really nobody else collecting them besides you and the guy on eBay.
Well, I've been looking at sold listings lately, and somebody is going hard on Salmon, and it's the buy it now. So I don't really have an idea of who it could be, but I noticed somebody bought like his replica jersey. Somebody bought a replica World Series ring for Tim Salmon. Like all of the low end like refractors, artist proof. Like in the span of November, somebody has like went hard on salmon, and I have no clue who it is. So I've got to stop broadcasting.
Yeah, well,
somebody is like going hard on him. They even got a World Series replica ring. That's beyond me.
Yeah, right.
So, I don't know if it's my guy or not, but somebody's tearing it up.
Yeah, no, it is amazing. All it takes is one other guy. You know, Bo is a super cool guy, but I mean, he's going hard after stuff. I mean, he's picking up cards. I don't want to mention because other people are going to go look for him, but he's picking up these oddball cards that again, like Jeremy, I'm like, man, those will come up later for cheaper, so I'll just leave it alone. And he's scooping all that stuff up. So it's like, okay, do I really want this stuff to not be in my collection, or do I have to pony up? And I can tell you, I've definitely overpaid for 2 or 3 cards over the last couple months to make sure that they're in my collection and not his. So, but that's, I think it's fun and it makes it exciting, but it also is a different mentality. And all the markets for Bonds, Jeter, Griffey, Ripken, Frank Thomas, I think we're already like that. So you add another guy to the pool, and I think overall the market starts increasing.
Recently, I've noticed my Nomar collection is pretty on point. I think Nomar is like the perfect player to collect because he's not getting crazy prices, but he's in enough sets of cool cards that people post them because they can get something out of it. They can get some money out of it,
right?
But it's not. He's not approaching like any of your guys' prices. So
I've noticed that too, because if I can't find an A-Rod or it's just too expensive for that kind of set, the first one I go to is Nomar, because he was always kind of like my second favorite shortstop, and always enjoyed watching him play. So I've definitely looked at cards that he was in and kind of watched them. I haven't bought anything yet, but it's definitely cards that I've kept an eye on to try to see if I could get that for relatively cheap, even though it's in because like you said, he was in most of the major sets, kind of like everyone else, but then his prices have been kind of normal, not too bad.
Yeah, and he seems to be posted quite often on eBay. The 101 PMG, like the Ultimate Gems, went for like $300 or $350, and that's a 101. The Ultimate Gems, it was the 99. But that's just, you're not any of our big guys, you're in the thousands.
Yep.
The Nomar, I've noticed, is like just that happy medium where he's got a ton of cards and they're for a good price. So I've got probably 150 to 200 like just awesome Nomars just because he's one of my PC guys. And I can't find salmon. Frank's too expensive. But it's like Goldilocks, and Nomar is just right. So.
Oh, nice one. Well, I feel like Nomar's prices right now reflect what the market was for A-Rod 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago when I came in, because I was looking for it. It's on the shelf in there somewhere, but I couldn't find it. There was an upper deck die cut, amazing greats out of $250 that I bought, like the clear acetate one. Remember, I bought that for $20 when that was like my first purchase. That, and then the Faces of the Game or something that's a die cut out of 100. They were both like $15, $20 cards. They both have sold for like 3 times that now. But Nomar's prices now are right there in that A-Rod range from 3.5 years ago. So if you collect Nomar, good on you, man, because it's still looking good. Because I remember seeing, I think it was a Hit Brigade or something like that, a 101 A-Rod, and when it popped up, I'm like, what is this? Is this legit? And it sold for like $90. Imagine what that would sell for now. I mean, crazy. So it's really, that's why I had that conversation with Jeremy last week, because these cards were getting sold of him for that I could win for $2, $3, and they were going for like $9, $10. I'm like, what is going on right now? Like everything. And it wasn't Bo buying it, so somebody else is also scooping them up. Yeah. So,
I've noticed some of the sets, the prices have been kind of stagnant. So not everything that's necessarily going up, because I looked at the Nomar Prime Choice Reserve, in October one sold for $20, and in 2004 one sold for 18. So there's like no difference in 15 years for like a Nomar Prime Choice Reserve, whereas the Frank in 2012 one sold for $23. And then earlier this year, it went up to 84. Wow. So there's like just some of these cards and some of these players are just not going up. It just, I don't know the algorithm to it, but I just know like there are certain players that are just remaining stagnant. And I don't know if that's a good investment opportunity, because you have to assume like these cards are going to go up just by the sheer, amount of attention that we're bringing to them.
Right.
But there are just certain sets, it seems like the attention, and I think Pacific probably owns a lot of those sets, of just remaining stagnant. But it's only a matter of time before people go after Pacific, and then you start to see a Pacific craze. Maybe that's in a year, maybe that's in 3 years, but once people, these cards are they're gonna end up in people's collections, and people are gonna say, okay, I can't get the precious metal gem, so what else can I get? Oh, there's a Pacific Kramer's Choice. So suddenly Pacific Kramer's Choice goes up $10, $20, $30, $50. It just, they're always going to be reselling them, but I think just by the amount of collectors, it's being like mainstream now. People are collecting baseball cards, and it's become like a popular thing. I just think these lower sets are gonna raise in value as well at some point. It's got to happen. So I think maybe it's an investment opportunity for some people, but I think it's going to happen eventually. That Pacific is going to be hot commodity.
Jeremy, you've been collecting. I remember you were telling me you have a spreadsheet that you kept like track of a lot of your purchases on. Do you have a couple examples of cards that you've noticed have really kind of surprised you as far as the amount that they've increased by? Like we obviously talked about the PMG. That's going to be a given because that set has a massive amount of attention. But while you're pulling that up, we were talking about the Flair Legacies, and I think a lot of people know about that card. It's a very well-known parallel. Jeremy was trying after that A-Rod that ended a couple months back, and I remember how much I paid for mine, and I was happily surprised that it was going for more. But I'm just curious, Jeremy, once you get that pulled up, I mean, you were mentioning, like, throw out a few prices of stuff that you bought back then, because this is going to be fun for Greg, I'm sure.
Yeah, one of the things that you've talked about recently, one of the parallels that it's always been kind of popular, but it's the Platinum Blue, anything Pacific Platinum Blue. I bought the 2000 Crown Collection Platinum Blue for, it's, numbered out of 67. I bought it for $4. And I imagine that's $30, $40, $50 maybe, depending on who's looking for it.
Platinum Blues are sleepers.
Yeah, I know. And that, those were
now they're going up right now from this moment. They're going up.
Those are always ones you kind of look at, and people always want those. I got the 98 Donruss Prize Collections Preferred, not the base, but like the preferred players subset one. Limited to 55 copies. I bought that for $10.
Wow.
That's easily like a $80, $120 card.
I've got a couple Flair Showcase Legacies that I got for, this one was 11, this one was 15.
Wow.
20.
Greg's like, hey, that sounds like my guy's prices. That sounds perfect.
20, 30. And then there were actually, I've got 8 of the 9 or 9 of the 10 total A-Rod Flair Legacies. I was missing 2 about a month or about a year ago. This one guy always had one up for a decent amount. So I'd offer every time he'd relist it for $50, $60. I kind of started at 50, went up to $55, $60. always declined or counter offered much higher. So I just ignored it and picked up one that was listed for auction for right at $55. And then I kind of was searching 2 days ago, and it actually sold on a buy it now for half of his asking price, which seemed a bit high to me, but it was, I mean, it's a good card.
Was that the one that was listed at $199? Best buy now or best offer, right? Yeah. I finally got a hold of that guy. Started tangent off here, but he's had that silver press proof from 96 Studio up forever. And eventually, well, turns out he never had it anymore. He actually sold all of them, and that one kept getting relisted on accident. And I'm like, well, dude, I've been offering for 6 months of this card. You could have let me know back then to stop offering. Like, I could have been screwed out at $60, but no, that's really cool to see. How much did that row 2 go for? That I know you and I were following it, even though we both have the card, but didn't it go for $80?
Yeah, something like that. $80-$90, I believe, is what it was.
Right. I mean, those triple digits on legacies, that's, Griffey, Jeter, Bonds, Frank Thomas territory, Cal Ripken territory. So it's kind of cool to see, Alex approaching in a way. Thank God we have most of our cards we want. But I mean, what does the Tim Salmon legacy go for, Greg, on the average?
Well, it's like 10 to 30, but there's not many listed, and Burbank holds them all. Mm-hmm. So obviously Burbank is doing like 40 to 50 with no offer options. So they just kind of sit in my watch list because I don't want to pay $50 per salmon leg. I have 5 of the 10. All of 97 I have, and then I need 98, 99. But I'm not willing to pay 40 to 50 a pop for them.
Right.
The lesser ones are in like the 17 to 25 range, but then it starts to go up to the 30 and 40, 50. And just right now, I don't want to pay that. I would love to see one on auction. I could get it for 12, 17. I could get the whole lot of the 5 probably for about 100 or so. Yeah. Or I could pay 3 times that if I just do buy it now. So I'm not feeling that. I want to complete the legacies because I really like those. Those are some of my favorites. Mm-hmm. But right now it's just they're not being listed. Salmon is just hard to find. It's just a wait and see approach with him because there'll be nothing, and then 2 months, there's a Red Crusade, and I get the not 24 karat, and then the next year I don't see anything. So.
Well, I'm kind of curious though, because we're talking about market value, and I know that also depends on what a buyer is willing to pay for a card. You know what I mean? I think my number in my head is definitely a lot more than it used to be. When I first came in, I set a very hard cap, and I did not chase anything in triple digits because I knew I couldn't afford chasing after those. And if I started doing that, then I would be, SOL. So has your value that you're willing to pay for a salmon card increased since the market's been increasing, or are you still holding pretty firm at a price range? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's weird. Like I'm cheap until I'm not. And then when I'm not, I go hard. Mm-hmm. So it's like the Red Crusade. I told you what my highest.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's crazy.
I would have had a mini heart attack if that's what I actually had to pay.
Yeah. That would have been that would have been like Griffey prices on that card, man.
Yeah. So I would have probably died a little, but I probably would have paid it.
Yeah.
And so it's just like if it's a card that I really, really, really want, my ceiling goes out, way up. But if these cards where I'm like, it'll pop up. Like there's 100 legacies, they're gonna pop up. It's hard for me to justify the $50, but those cards those unicorns, you're like, you know what? This is probably my only chance for the next 5 to 10 years. So yeah, maybe I'll just work an extra job.
What about you, Jeremy? I mean, geez, you've been in it longer than both of us. I mean, how has it been easy to justify the prices that he's going for now, or is it make it a bit trickier to like pony up for a card that you're like the score that you bought that you and I were bidding on each other against. This is before we knew each other well, but I mean, was that kind of a shock to you that you were having to pay that much?
Yeah, that was the one I had in mind when hearing Greg talk. Was there's a couple cards that I've got a bunch of saved auctions, so I go back and look at those and see what they sold for, and that's kind of the price I want to pay for it. So if it goes over that, I don't really feel like paying that much. But since all his prices have kind of gone up, I have had to kind of readjust most of the price points of what I think it should go for. Yeah, that Score Premier, didn't think I was going to have to pay that much for it, but I know you were after it. I think Kyle was probably after it.
I didn't think I was going to have to pay that much either.
Was probably after it. So that was one I kind of said, well, I'll throw it up there a little bit higher than what I would think. And I ended up winning it, and then saw, a Ripken sold as a buy it now for like $40 or something. So
I think
more people going after it. It's gonna go up higher.
I've had to, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I've really had to adjust my mindset, because I just want to use this as an example. A lot of times we don't talk about how much we pay exactly, just because it's kind of bad form. But for me, I will say that yesterday a card popped up, the 96 Summit Artist Proof. Not a crazy looking card, but it is pretty rare. I've never seen one pop up at auction in 3 or 4 years. So I ended up getting the guy to accept a $26 offer, which at the time I'm like, okay, with the current A-Rod market, I feel good about this. But then I go do my research. And again, Cal Ripken, Frank Thomas, Barry, all those guys sold for that or cheaper. And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I overpaid now, But again, 3 years ago, I would have been like, no. I'll pay $10 for this when it comes up at auction or something. So I've definitely had to adjust my mindset too. It's been really strange, to be honest with you. But anyway, I just had
you're always going to have that little bit of gray area where you're like, what's an extra $5? What's an extra 10? So it's always relative to the player you collect and how much you want the card. That gray area may, for some people, may be $100, but you're always going to have that gray area where you're like, it's not going to kill me if I'm in this gray area to overpay for the card, because I am going to enjoy this card. I really want this card. So I think we all have that little gray area where we have some wiggle room. It's when you get to the buy it now where you're like, okay, I'm going to overpay 30, and then I'm going to overpay 30, and then I'm going to overpay. Like, I can't do that. But then you hit that one card where you're like, oh, it's an extra $20 just to have one card. So I think we all have that gray area. But Jeremy, I was going to ask, how many A-Rods do you have, like, total?
When I last kept track of that kind of stuff, it was 2,500 plus, something like that.
So I feel you're in a little different boat than maybe Matt or somebody else, because the cards that you're probably seeing at a crazy price, you may already have.
Yeah. So
it's like the things you're looking for, like a Pacific Blue, may not see the kind of increase that Matt's looking at for, like, a Mere Gold or something like that.
Well, yeah, there's definitely been a couple recently that have gone for even more than I would have thought. And I know Matt's asked, hey, are you looking to bid on that? I'm like, no, I'm good. I've already got that one. Good luck.
Yeah.
So luckily there are some that I already have and I don't have to worry about, and I just kind of watch and see what happens.
Yeah. That's where you're like, you old school guys. Well, I say old school, but like 2010 is my old school now. Like you and Brant and Nate, you guys like got cards for almost dirt cheap compared to today. So it's like you're sitting pretty. You want to sell them off, you'll make a great profit, but you were able to capitalize when the cards were just kind of stagnant and now all blowing up.
Yep, there's definitely a few examples that I still have, and some that I sold off a little too early, looking to make some money at the time that would have been beneficial to keep until now and sell off. But
I think the average rare insert, like let's say serial numbered 50 to 100, I would say has increased 2 to 3 times in the last 5 to 10 years. So the average, you could ballpark it and say that'd probably be a fair number to So it's just the last 5 or 10 years.
I'm going to look up a specific card here because now that you said that, I'm thinking of, yeah, definitely. Everybody knows, sorry, Greg, you don't know this card, the Fortune 15 refractor. I don't know why Salmon didn't make that set. He barely missed out, I'm sure. But seriously, you know that set for Nomar, right? I believe you have the Nomar of that? Okay. So an A-Rod in 2016 sold for $48, and then back a year prior sold for $23. And then the last one that sold on auction was $100. So I can guarantee you, with Bo looking for it, Jeremy, are you looking for that card still?
I am still looking for that one.
Brant looking for it because I have his. And you add you 3 guys in on that card, plus any set collector that loves that set. That card goes for at least $150. I would bet that card goes for $150 because you got 3 guys that heavily want it, plus any set collectors. That's again 3 times the value. You hit the nail right on the head, Greg. It's perfect.
And then, as a byproduct of that, somebody after that sale is going to look at the comps and say, "Oh, it just went for $150. I'm going to post it for $200."
Yep.
And offer $160, $175, and then. So
yeah, that's what the PMG did. That's exactly what that thing did. It increased 3 times the value. Both times it popped up, ending with Jeremy of his when he posted his at the buy now or best offer. And I was even thinking about, like, wonder if I should talk to Jeremy, but I can't justify it because a 6 times price increase from $100. It's like, golly, man, that's a lot for that card. But again, in a year that card could be worth $1,500. So I don't know. Right. Which is why I told Jeremy, pull that thing off now. Like, don't get rid of it, man. Keep it.
I know. Once we kind of started talking about it that night, I pulled it and didn't really want to sell it after that. So
no, that's like a centerpiece of a collection, man. That'd be like Greg being like, well, I could get like $1,500 for my 24 karat. He's still not going to sell it. I would literally go. I would make you take it down. I would hack into your computer and take it off and never let you list it. But because those cards just have those stories. It'd be like me telling you guys, all right, I'm listing the Quantum for $1,000 best offer. I would never do that. I couldn't do it. Even for $5,000, I don't know if I could do it. Yeah. So
everybody has a price, but it's going to have to be something just stupid to sell it because you know what it took to get that card. We all have those cards. Like, it took so much work to get, like, the hours of searching alone are more valuable than the money that you could get from it, because you spent so much, like, Facebook friending this dude to find this salmon card. Like, if I got the card, I'm not going to sell it for $200 or $400 because it took so much time to find it. So it's just, at some point, your time is just more valuable than what you could get out of a card.
Oh, for sure, man. No, it's there's no way. I mean, there's no way I could get rid of some of those cards with how much work I had to put in to find them. I agree. And then Jeremy, you too. I mean, even though you technically can look at some of those cards you got cheap and turn a profit on them, there's no way you would want to get rid of those cards because of how cool it was to pick them up for so cheap back then,
I've learned that the hard way too. Is some of the ones I sold off at the time were the ones that I could have gotten the most out and kind of needed money at the time, and those are the ones I really wish I would have kept because you can't find those for some of the prices I got. One of the ones I regret the most was the 97 Donruss Preferred Precious Metals A-Rod. For a buy it now, $49.99 because someone had trimmed the plastic case on top a little bit and sold it for that, and then hard up for money one year and sold it for probably triple that. And I think the last one at auction sold for $250, $300, something like that. So even almost double what I sold it for.
Right. Yeah. And that's a big thing too. I think if you're looking at market value, something that will increase it is more of those cards being available, or decrease. Because if there's more available, then, people, you get 3 of the same A-Rod PMG listed. It's not going to go for nearly as much as it could if one pops up once in a blue moon. And so a lot of people are holding on to their collections, like us. They're literally feeling the same way. I'm not going to sell that card. It took too much work to get it. So I think that's also playing a big part is Brant brought this up to me about a couple weeks ago. He goes, hey, Matt, have you noticed way fewer rare A-Rods being posted? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Way less than when I was on eBay 3 years ago. And that goes to show that Allegiance refractor of A-Rod goes up on eBay. It's the only really rare refractor of him up there. It's been up for like in a month or two that anybody listed. And the card almost goes for triple digits. That's crazy. That card went for like 30 last time it sold. So that's playing a huge role. Everybody's holding right now. And when those cards finally show up, people are after them, man. So I think the amount that's available is playing a huge role in just the price increase. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's I mean, look at Tim Salmon. You know, that's why you pay so much for some of those salmons, because it's like, when's the next time this is going to show up? Never. 10 years from now, you know?
Yeah. And the thing is, like, nobody's really sitting on them. They just don't bother posting them. So it's like,
that's right.
I'm facing like a different battle just because people are like, it's not worth it to post a Tim Salmon card. Whereas A-Rod, maybe they're sitting on it, maybe they're collecting him, maybe they don't want to get rid of it, but they would for the right price. And Salmon, they're just like, common box, I don't want to post it. Yeah. So it's a different battle, but you just have to be vigilant with your searches, and when it pops up, like, have a price you're willing to pay, because it seems like just doing the research here, the more rare the card, the more popular, the crazier the multiplier ends up being. Even with like something little, prime choice, Pacific, like there tends to be a multiplier regardless of what the card is. So
yeah, at this point, I'd love to see a prime choice hit auction and see what that goes for right now. Yeah. I believe there's quite a few people still after the A-Rod.
And that's a decent card too.
Yeah.
I've seen Alan and Matt's. They look nice. So.
I remember Alan, like you said, he talked about wanting one of those so bad, and I knew he didn't have the bonds, which is why I sent it over. I'm like, go get the A-Rod right now, you know, because then you can at least have a card that you really like, even though it's not bonds. And of course, you know, everybody knows how Alan is, man. He's either all in or all out, and he went all in and got the bonds shortly after. So maybe somebody can pry that from him when he comes back in March. We'll see.
I'm sure he'd get rid of the A-Rod for sure.
I'm sure he would if somebody offered him enough. But no, it's again, I'm pleasantly. It's kind of one of those things. I don't know how you feel, Jeremy. I'm happy to see the value going up, really, because thankfully a lot of us have most of the cards we're looking for. But at the same time, it's like when one of those cards finally does come, it's like, oh boy, here we go. You know, this is gonna be crazy, especially if something really rare pops up at auction and you don't have a chance to offer up a price and try to get the seller to say yes. So
yeah, I'm interested to see what happens on some of those, that if they do pop up, I kind of want it just to go through auction to see, you know, what it'll go for. I don't really tend to offer that much, or, you know, message the seller before it's going to end. Normally I'll try to wait out the auction and see what I can get it for.
Right.
But like you said, kind of, if it's one that I'm really looking for, I definitely probably would try to message the seller as quickly as possible and try to work it out. I know I was on the verge of doing that for the last Flair Legacy that I wanted. It finally popped up.
Which one you're talking about?
The listing was pretty sketchy.
And it ended up being sketchy,
real
right?
Numbers blacked out and listed for a high price and overseas, and
nope,
not something I wanted to deal with. So I didn't even bother, even though it's the last one I'm needing. It's not even something I bothered with or thought more than 5 minutes on it. So
that card popped up 3 years ago. I remember I just moved into this apartment, so it was a little less than 3 years ago, and I remember it going for almost $100. I'm like, why? Like, why is this? Because again, you know, I didn't really know much, and so I think the overall knowledge that we've given to collectors, that the group gives to collectors, the forums give to collectors, the more you know about cards, the more you want them. You know what I mean? They become more special, and I think that plays a big part in it, for sure.
Walking advertisements.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, no joke. No joke. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, I think we're only going to see it continue to increase, honestly.
Well, I know if I hadn't found this group, I'd have no idea why these cards would be going for so much. Like before, because I didn't hear about. I found out through the National, like about the Facebook group, and then joined kind of one of those nights. And if I hadn't known of the group and just saw the prices, I really wouldn't know what's happening. But I do think it's because of all the posts, people seeing the cards and knowing kind of backstory on it. They'll go and look for their player, and then if they can't find their player or their player isn't in the set, maybe they'll try to pick up a different card that could be a bit cheaper, but just to have one and kind of see what it's like in person.
Yeah. Go ahead, Craig.
As well as Facebook, Instagram, like the exposure of the cards. Like some people may not even know they exist until they're scrolling through Instagram.
Yeah.
And all it takes is that one picture, switch over to eBay, look for your guy.
Yep.
And then suddenly you got price increases and you got competition for cards. So we just, with social media, the exposure, we're just making cards known that weren't necessarily known in 2010.
Well, I saw that too before I even talked to Matt or saw him on the Facebook group. I had seen that Kyle had followed this other A-Rod collector, and he started posting single cards and kind of the backstory of why he loves that card and, different facts on it. And it kind of got me looking at some of those, before I met and started talking to Matt. And it's like, well, that's a kind of a cool card. I didn't know they were kind of that rare or that kind of cool story behind it. And so I'd go and pick one up, and that's kind of what happens.
That's really how it goes. I mean, it is. I mean, look at the select artist proofs. I went and snagged a couple of those because everybody was talking. Some guy was like, actually, if you look at the number of cases that were made, which we knew of Select, I think Select was always a product that they told you that there was a certain number of cases out there, so you could figure out print runs of artist proofs. And then I found out that blue artist proof from 97 Select was like 1 out of 390 packs or something like that. And it was like only $12. I'm like, oh, cool. Why not get this? I mean, it really only takes one guy to bring a card to light, whether it's a fellow collector like Jeremy or a Tim Salmon guy who says, hey, this card is awesome. Like, what the heck? I've never heard of this card. Or I didn't realize it looked so great in person. So then you go buy it. That's really all it takes. And I think that's why, I grabbed the green artist proof, because you look at them right now on the camera and it doesn't look like much, but it in person, the cards look incredible, man. It's like not Dufex, but it's some other crazy technology. And it's just, again, that's all it really takes is a couple people bringing them to light in the group. And then all of a sudden they start flying off the shelves, It's crazy.
They do.
Yeah.
Well, it's getting close to the end for me because I got to do some things, but I wanted to see what kind of recent pickups you guys got. If anything, I've got a few that are pretty cool, but I'll go. Jamie, do you got anything?
Yeah, I got a few things, nothing major, just a few kind of recent pickups. Let's see. Saw people posting about the warp zones, so I had to pick up the one that was up there.
Almost got a Nomar once.
Yeah, and then like Matt said, the artist proof.
Look at that! You went and got one too. Awesome.
Yeah, he posted it and then said there's still one left. You should probably go pick it up. So I did.
Awesome, dude.
And then let's see, I got the Rave.
Oh yeah,
99. So that was just with eBay bucks. And then this is one I'd kind of always wanted, but just never kind of ponied up. And
I like those cards. I got the Frank. Those are nice looking cards.
They are pretty nice. And then the last one was kind of another one that I just been working for a while to try to get a best offer, and that's what came up finally. So.
I've always said, Jeremy, that if you look at that card, that I wish they would have die cut the entire thing, because at the very bottom there's a little black mark.
Yeah, until you brought that up, I'd never noticed it. But yeah, it looks kind of awkward with that little black.
I don't know. In my mind, I think they wanted something for the cards to sit on in the holder, so it wouldn't mess up. But I still think, like, come on, there's that Pacific insert that's cheap, but it's got all the little like a stamp all the way around it. I mean, they didn't seem to care about that card, and so I wish they would have done it, man. For me, I feel like, honestly, the value of that card increases 10, 20% if the whole thing's cut out. But that's just me.
I love that card.
It's pretty awesome.
I still have not bought the Frank.
Well, that's one of those things that it kind of had sat there for 20, in auction they come up 20, 30 bucks, whatnot. And then people list them as buy it now as their best offers, and they're 80, 90 bucks.
Mm-hmm.
And then they won't accept an offer anything less than 60 bucks. So I'd always kind of held off until I could finally get an offer that was close enough to what I wanted to pay and thought it might go for it at auction. So
I've got a save search for Frank.
Yeah.
And there's been several times where I'll press the button and it'll say nothing is available. And then I'll look at the sold and it's like 60 bucks. I'm like, dang, I would have paid 60 for it. But the Frank seems to go up for like 80 to 120. I'm buying it now, and I don't want to pay that. I would pay 60, but they go too quick.
It's a great looking card. It's one that I think Matt posted it one day, and I always thought or assumed that I had that already for some reason, but went back and looked through my lists, and that was not one that I had. So
it's a good card.
Greg, I have to grab one more that's not in my pile here. So would you like to go next? Yeah, would you go next? Then I'll go.
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay. Go for it.
All right. So Matt kind of briefly touched on this card, but I found it on COMC. I think they wanted like 40 or 50, and I offered 27. So I was able to. It's the gold holographic domed 99. I don't really have much sunlight today. It's kind of cloudy, but the whole card is just like refractor. I've got the salmon. I wanted the Nomar. It was just always too expensive, and 27 was my gray area, so I paid. A few other guys I would like to have, but the Nomar was a cool one. And then hopping on that, this is the gold commemorative from 99. Sorry, nope, 2000. Legends commemorative gold. This is supposed to be the one of one. The one of one is missing, so it's the replacement. But it was $15. So
dang. What?
Yeah, you can't pass that up. Dang.
No, absolutely not.
The 101 replacement for $15. I was like, you know what? I can do that. So
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, you don't really see these cards too often. And a replacement, $15. That's my magic number. That's what I've got.
That's my magic number. That's his Tim Salmon number, you mean? Oh my goodness! All right, that's cool though, man. I was wondering about that card. I've never seen those before. I know. I'm sure there's a couple of those guys that pop up once in a blue moon in the group that got some of those floating around. But that's really neat to see that for sure. That's your second 101. That's like a replacement one. You got the Salmon Ultimate, right?
The Salmon Ultimate Victory Gold.
Yeah.
The replacement. That was like 60 or $70.
Right.
So to get the Nomar for 15 was pretty cool.
Somebody must have mislisted that card, or they printed it off themselves.
The dude, yeah, maybe. The dude had it for like 40 or 50 for a year, and I offered him a price, and he said no. And then he did like an auction, and he went for 15.
How does that only go for like Nomar? Yeah. Well, now that you mentioned it so much, its cards are going up. So whoops, there goes that. I've got kind of a couple cool stories behind a couple of my pickups, so I'll try to be quick with it, Greg. I figured because it's harder to pick up the rare A-Rod stuff that I would start going after a set, the Road to 500 set, and just go for all of his Mariners home runs ones, not the Rangers, Yankees ones. I obviously don't care about those, but I remembered something really cool, and I'm sure I've talked about it on the show. My very first baseball game, Alex hit a home run at it. And he hit a home run to right field off Mark Langston. Well, I found the card. Here it is right here, number 23. And it says right there at the top, July 11th, 1996. That was my very first baseball game. Went with my dad. And I remember it on the back off Mark Langston. One guy on base, home run to right field over the big right field wall. So I'm really excited to try to get the first, I think it's 170, 180 home runs that A-Rod hit. But I wanted to show that one for sure. Another really cool story is there's a group member. He's asked me not to bring his name up on video. So let's not do that. But many years ago, he went to a minor league game where Alex was playing, and he got him to come over and sign a card. And so a couple weeks ago, he's like, hey, I'd really like to send this to you. And here, it's a minor league card. It's right here. A-Rod signed this in person, which is it's my first in person. Let's see if the camera will grab it. A-Rod autograph that I didn't obtain myself. You can see it's got that old school autograph, but he also included the ticket stub from the game. So I thought something really neat, something kind of oddball, but just super awesome to have a card like that. That's got a great story. I think these 90s cards have that going on more than any other era. So that was awesome. And then I have to show this off. I mean, I think the card looks amazing, but from 95 Pinnacle, the artist proof, I've been waiting to pick this up. And I got it from that same seller, Jeremy, who had the legacy up for so much. But I remember Ty Ling in our group posted a picture of Sports Card Magazine from 96, and it had that card listed as like a $90 card back in 96 when A-Rod was going nuts. So I had to grab that. And then one more, Greg, just real quick. I have to make a side PC because I'm starting to get a little approaching my limit of what I can pay for A-Rod. So I'm going to start going after this guy, and I have his book and I've read it, and I think his story is amazing. And that's Rick Ankiel. And everybody knows his story. He was a phenomenal pitcher in 99 and 2000, and then the playoffs in 2000. He got what he calls in his book the yips, and he couldn't throw a strike. He threw 4 wild pitches, a mile past the catcher, if you remember. Yeah. And so after buying and reading his book, and I just loved watching the guy play. He's got a cannon. He had a cannon in the outfield, which was just fun to watch. I would just slowly kind of pluck away at some of his 90s cards.
He's actually someone I look at his cards all the time. I'd always enjoyed watching him play. We'd play wiffle ball in the backyard of my friend's house, and I'd always try to throw left-handed like he did. Let me tell you, that was an experience. But once when he was kind of big time for a while in the early 2000s until that happened, and then he came back with the Cardinals and Braves for a bit and played outfield and had a good solid second career. But those are always kind of cards that I look through and see what they're going for, and just wondering.
No, Jeremy, stop it.
Wonder what the market is for those.
Oh gosh, I shouldn't have brought that card up.
Yeah, it's a great card though. That's one I'm going to pick up eventually.
Yeah, here it comes. See, if anybody's watching that wants to know about market value, that right there is exactly why the market's higher, because any of us could talk about a card and boom, next guy wants to get it, and then we post it in the group. And 5 people go and get that card. It really has an amazing effect with this 90s, where if I posted a Mike Trout auto, everybody would be like, okay, cool, whatever. There's 100 of them out there I can go get anytime I want. So that's the effect of the 90s, man. They do that.
Yep.
So cool. Stay away, Jeremy. Those are mine. I'm just kidding.
Well, Jeremy, I appreciate you being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're a good partner. I appreciate everything you do.
Yeah. Awesome to have you on. It's nice to have a fellow. I feel like all my fellow A-Rod collectors, none of them I look at as nemesis. When they pick up cards, I'm like, oh, good for them. That's awesome. At least with the Jeremy and not somebody I'm never going to see the card and never going to talk to. Yeah. One day we'll have to get your nemesis on here. I'm sure he's a nice guy, Greg. Maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, no, but thanks again, Jeremy. I appreciate you hopping on the official podcast after being on last week. Awesome, dude.
Thanks for having me.
See you guys soon.
All right. Take care, guys. Bye.
See ya.